on what is translated as sympathetic joy, mudita in Pali or Sanskrit. I don't never know quite which. So this is one of the positive emotions which come as a package of four. We're probably quite familiar with metta, loving kindness. We've spent a bit of time with karuna, compassion. And today we've got the third of those four, which is mudita. And next week we'll be looking at upekkha, which is translated as something like equanimity. So these are the four Brahma Vihāras, the four sublime abodes, sublime abidings. So this is what we're going to be looking at today. And I've got a highlight for my talk today, which is something like finding joy in a troubled world. But my highlight is you don't need to be particularly happy to feel joy. You do, however, need to be in touch with loving kindness to contact joy. This is the kind of joy which is involved in responding to the good qualities or the good fortune of other people. That's what we're going to be looking at today. So, as I just sort of said, there's a lot in our life and a lot in the world around us, which might make it difficult to be as happy as we would like to be, or even very happy at all some of the time. But this doesn't have to necessarily get in the way of feeling a resonant joy involved with the good fortune or the qualities of other people. And sympathetic joy, this mudita, is often talked about as what arises when loving kindness comes in contact with the good qualities or good fortune of other people. So that's where this joyfulness can arise. And a question I sort of asked myself, well, isn't developing loving kindness sufficient for the Dharma life? Why do we need to consider these other three, karuna, mudita, and upekkha, since metta is regarded as the primary, or you could say the most important in some sense, the most important positive emotion. Well, reflecting on this, what it seems to me is that there are some things that can get in the way of our feeling connected to other people. So if somebody's suffering really badly, though we might think, oh, it's good to feel really empathic and compassionate towards other people, but other people's suffering can get in the way. If it's too much, for example, it can really get in the way of our feeling connected to this person. Hence, we need to train in karuna, in compassion. And similarly, if other people have some good fortune, that also can be a bit of a block if we've not got a sense that we've got much good fortune ourselves. So the good fortune of others, and indeed the qualities of others, can get in the way of our feeling connected to other people. So this is my take on why we might need to train in cultivating compassion and sympathetic joy. So just starting off with talking about how when we first come to a Triratna Buddhist Center, we will be very soon will be introduced to the metta bhavana, the cultivating of loving kindness, getting in contact with well-wishing towards other people. This is all very well and good. It's absolutely vital that we start by gaining a connection to this sense of well-being in relation to ourselves and other people. And without that connection, we will make very little progress in the spiritual life. We do need this kind of positive emotion. We do need to contact well-wishing towards other people. And with this basis in loving kindness, then we start to have access to these other positive emotions, to karuna, mudita, and upekkha. So we could definitely regard metta as the basis for these three, but it's not quite as simple as that. Well, if I just get in contact with metta, all the others will be fine. They'll just flow. It's not quite as simple as that, because there are some things which can get in the way of our feeling this empathic response, for example, to the good fortune of other people. And one rather obvious, it might seem rather obvious, and I mention it, but if we are envious of somebody's good fortune, then this is going to get in the way of our, feeling positive and warm and joyful in somebody else's good fortune. There's rather a good example of this in my own life, and going back 40 years, I have to say, 40 years, I was a student, 40 years ago, I was a student in Cambridge, and I got a twin brother, and we both did the same degree. We both studied engineering, which I'm very glad to have forgotten all about now. So I studied engineering, as did my brother 40 years ago. And as we went through the 3 years of the course, my brother, being a very diligent and capable student, he got a first in the first year, he got a first in the second year, and he got a first in the third year. I didn't. I did not as well as I think I got 2 lower seconds and 1 upper second. And I can say completely truthfully that I didn't feel an ounce of mudita in relation to my brother's good results. Not a jot, So there's definitely some envy getting in the way there. I was doubtless had a lot of loving kindness toward my brother, and in fact he'd probably been certainly for most of my life my closest friend. He was very, very dear to me, but envy was getting in the way of having this sort of joyful response in my brother's good fortune. So that's one thing that can get in the way, enviousness. And another thing that might get in the way is if we don't have a strong sense that we've got qualities, maybe because nobody's ever mentioned them to us. I don't know about you, but I think before I encountered the Dharma, which is I was nearly 40 at the time, I don't think I can remember once when somebody mentioned any good qualities that I had. And maybe I was unlucky in that. But anyway, I probably had something of a poverty mentality in relation to myself. So I didn't really have a strong sense that the qualities are present in me. But having lived in very closely with the Sangha, I started to get more of a sense of that. So that's one thing. Another thing that can get in the way of a positive response to the qualities of other people is not having a good sense that we've actually got good qualities as well. I think we do need to have our merits rejoiced in to actually be able to have a positive response, a joyful response to others' good qualities. And another thing may get in the way is that we don't really have a sense that this mudita, this sympathetic joy, is actually a completely natural thing. If we haven't had so much experience of it, then maybe we haven't really got a feeling for it. We haven't necessarily got to be open to it as much as we could be. And I'd have to say that I don't think I had much experience of mudita until my friends started getting married. And I used to find that those occasions really did bring forth quite a lot of joyfulness when I went along to somebody's marriage day. They're very, very joyful occasions. So that I think for me personally, that was when I started to get a sense that yes, sympathetic joy is indeed a very natural thing that can arise. Yes, so there are some things that can get in the way of mudita. That's my first point, if you like. Enviousness and lack of a sense that we've got something to offer to the world. Maybe not having got so much experience of joyfulness in relation to other people's good fortune or qualities in the past. Now, now I'm going to move on to what we could describe as a mudita practice, and that is rejoicing in the merits of other people. And 20 years or so ago, I moved to Cambridge and started working in Windhorse Trading, which is a Buddhist right livelihood business, which was around for 20 to 25 years. Chris Radha can put me right here, something like that. Fortunately, it closed about 7 years ago. And I worked in the warehouse, as a number of other people sat here. And one of the great things about the warehouse, if it was your birthday, you would have your merits rejoiced in by the people in your team. They'll also play with cake, which is also quite a good mudita practice in its own right. But yes, having merits rejoiced in, is very important practice in the Buddhist world, and fortunately we did that a lot in Windhorse trading. I think that really helped to get a sense of the importance of reflecting on people's good qualities and then just telling them about it. It might be a bit embarrassing to start off with. You've never had it done to you. You might feel a bit self-conscious. But over a period of time, it seemed to become quite a natural and a really joyful and joyous thing to do. And yeah, I think it's something which we do probably need to train ourselves to do. Having our radar is open to looking for the good qualities of people, particularly if we're of a more critical mindset. We might not necessarily gravitate towards people's good qualities. We might focus on their failings. So it's definitely something we might need to have some practice in, which we're going to do in a minute, by the way. Yeah, so this is an important practice for the cultivation of mudita, rejoicing in the qualities of other people. So, and certainly on our own part, if we're able to actually be on the lookout for people's good qualities, it's very difficult to have ill will towards somebody who you've seen time and time again is really kind. For example, they may irk you on occasions and you might find them irritating. But if you know and you've seen some qualities in them, it's very difficult to really get in contact or really sort of hold on to any sort of ill will in relation to other people. So it's a really useful practice in that sense. And of course, that's going to really change our experience of life. If we don't go around feeling ill will towards people, our life will be just massively better. You know, it's just one of those things that will really enhance our life and, of course, the life of other people. So yeah, so we're now going to have a chance of doing that. So I suggest we go into groups of 3 people, and if there's 2 people left over, they can be a 2. What I'm going to ask you to do, that everybody in the group has a chance to rejoice in the merits, let's say, of a friend or a works colleague or a family member. So and online as well. So if you're in groups of 2 or 3. We'll take, I think we have let's have up to about 15 minutes. We'll go around everybody, at least everybody given the chance to do some rejoicing in somebody. If somebody feels they can't quite do it, that's fine, but at least we'll have some experience in the group of people rejoicing in the merits. If you've gone round your 3, if somebody in the group just put their hand up, so I start to get a sense of when we've all sort of gone round everybody in the group, and then once we've done that, we'll come back together and we'll just get a few people's response to how they found that. Was it easy? Was it difficult? What was the emotional response? Things like that. So that's your challenge. Actually, your mission impossible. So yes, so if there's no hands go up, after 15 minutes, I'll ring the bell. What did it seem to evoke? Was it easy to do? Was it happy? Was it difficult? No, let's just hear from a few people about how they found that experience.
It was lovely just to bring somebody to mind for that length of time. That, you know, although I know her good qualities, I never actually sit down and think about it much. So that was really nice to bring her to mind. Yeah.
So something we actually need to do. It's really helpful to actually do something about it rather than just keep it just in. I mean, it's good to think about people's good qualities, but actually the act of actually voicing it seems to make it more real in some way. It seems to enhance the experience. Thanks, Shara. Anybody else?
I've often found doing this practice that there's a very easy sense of who I like. and an easy sense of, in a way, who I don't like. But it's hard to sort of pin down why. So I have a sense of who I like, but to kind of get underneath that, to kind of identify sort of specific qualities that therefore is a way of justifying that. Because sometimes it's that extra step can be quite tricky, but very informative.
Yeah. So getting that kind of clarity isn't necessarily so easy. So maybe it's a muscle we need to train to actually start to know what we respond to. In a way, they're sort of values, and aren't they? People's qualities sort of reflect reflect values that are important to us. Thanks. Anybody else?
Yeah, found it really enjoyable actually, and in the group we started with a few examples and different levels of people, and then really felt like I could just carry on promoting and seeing the merits in different people. Could have carried on for ages. So it was a good exercise, and it felt great.
So sort of like getting involved in that seemed to open you up a bit to that whole way of seeing things. Great. Thanks. Anybody else?
I really liked hearing other people's ones because I already kind of knew mine quite well, and so hearing what another person describe the good qualities of somebody else kind of was quite enriching, because it's like, well, I kind of felt like there's another person who has all those good qualities, so it's kind of made my world a bit better in a sense.
Yeah. So was it quite a joyful, happy sort of experience?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yes. And even hearing other people's, even you haven't even heard of somebody or know of them, and to hear their qualities, you can get in touch with that positive emotion, can't you? It's something hearing other people give rejoicings is very good for us, good for our heart as well. Although of course it's a little bit different when we rejoice, but it's still something that can very much rub off on us. Thanks for that. Maybe one or two more before we move on.
Let me just say one of the things is nice sometimes. Someone else rejoicing, you hear they have a certain sensibility, a certain awareness of a person that I might not have had.
Yes.
So it sort of like opens up something that I might not just be aware of or not really attend to. And that's interesting, because it sort of feels like it's broadening my awareness.
Yes, now, I certainly noticed that when I was in the Windhorse warehouse, and people would rejoice in certain people, and I thought, God, I never thought of that. You know, other people have different sensibilities to our own. Just reflecting what you were saying there, it does seem to be the case. Yeah, some people notice different things to other people. Maybe one more.
I would really enjoy. I feel my heart is just sort of opened and feel sort of more connected to the people that I was doing it with. Like sort of quite connected now. Just through sort of just through that sort of positive sort of sharing, really. Appreciation.
Yes.
Yeah, can go quite deep.
We say it's like just a heart-opening practice.
Yeah.
And then we feel more connected to more than just a person who we bore in mind. Great, that was nice to hear that.
There's something beautiful that was brought forth and felt from everyone.
Yeah. So we're going to go into groups in a minute, and we're just going to do something slightly different. But I'll just mention, just as a preamble, that we hopefully we generally rejoice in people's good qualities there. But now, in a minute, we're going to talk about somebody who's got good fortune, and see how we think of people who've got good fortune, and see how we get on with that, telling people about good fortune. And the reason, well, I'm just thinking about how this kind of thing has been useful for me recently, because I got a nephew, Greg, who's about 27, and a few years ago, he started going to the London Buddhist Centre, and he requested the ordination a few years ago, and this year he got his invite to the ordination course. So that was like really, really lovely news. And of course, I very much enjoy telling people about this. So it seems that having rejoicing in Greg's good fortune seems to bring alive a sense of joyfulness in me. You know, and it's happening now. I'm telling all of you about it, and I can feel, you know, a glimmering of joyfulness just by telling other people about somebody else's good fortune. So that's what I'm going to invite us to do now for about 10 minutes. We go back into our groups and might take a little bit more thought, just to think of somebody who's relatively recently has had some good news or had some good fortune happen to them. Maybe they got a nice new job. Maybe somebody just got married. Well, and also in terms of the Dharma, maybe you're talking to somebody who'd had a very positive simple thing like a positive meditation experience. You know, some lower levels of good fortune, you could say. So hopefully that gives you a clue as what you might be able to do in the group. So this is finding somebody who's had some large or small good fortune relatively recently, and just tell the other people in the group about that. And we'll have 10 minutes for that, and I'll ring the bell in 10 minutes' time. So how do we get on? Maybe we could hear from some people who didn't have something to say in the last round. So how was it like telling other people about some good fortune of somebody we know?
It was interesting in that it was coupled quite a lot to the relationship with the person. In a close family member, it was easy to have joy in it. For someone I have a very difficult relationship with, then it could easily become jealousy.
Yes. So I think this is probably pointing to the importance of loving kindness. About for our family members and friends, we're probably quite well in contact with metta, probably quite a lot of the time. So this sense of joyfulness in their good fortunes will be quite relatively easy to contact. But people who we don't have that kind of connection with could be difficult. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that. Anybody else?
I think we just at the end we began to touch on the sort of dimension of whether there's their good fortune affects one or doesn't. Or
right. Okay. Yes.
Sort of, if there's disinterest or not, you know, there's in a way what you're saying. It's easier, and sometimes it affects. The good fortune means that you're not fortunate. That makes it more difficult, isn't it? So it feels like you have to work a bit more.
Yeah.
Good fortune.
Yes.
There's sort of an element of equanimity, working on equanimity in the sense of, you know, even if it affects you, you rejoice you can rejoice or delight in someone, even if it's almost like it affects you badly or something. That would be really difficult.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think there's something there.
Yeah, so that sense of self-reference really muddies the whole thing, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Also, if the person's success is in the same domain as your own efforts at success, then it's much easier to fall into the trap of thinking, oh, I wish that was me, I wish I'd done that, I wish I would.
Yes.
And once you start wishing that it was you, then there's a natural resistance to celebrating the success. So I think that's where the challenge is in sort of trying to take genuine pleasure.
Yeah, envy is the enemy of mudita. Yeah. Great, thanks. Anybody else? It seemed to be quite a joyful occasion. I don't know how you found. There's a lot of sort of happy verbiage going on. At least it seemed like it from here. Okay, we'll leave that there. I'll just say a few words to finish with. And I just wanted to say a little bit about what I think was for me probably the most joyful day of my life. And this was going back about 15 years when I was ordained with about 12 other people in Yashodaka in Spain in a retreat centre as part of a 4-month ordination retreat. And yes, we've been in this valley in the mountains for about how many weeks? Probably about 9 or 10 weeks, and then we had the ordination. And the way it works is in Triratna is that you have an ordination with one other person, your private preceptor, who gives you a new name and sort of gives you a bit of an initiation into maybe a particular meditation practice or a visualization of a mythic figure often. And then a few days later, there's the public part of the ceremony, which is the formal welcoming of new order members into the order. And if it's part of a big retreat like this was, then a lot of people get done, if you like, at the same day. And in the public ordination ceremony, as it's called, what happens is that the person who's ordained the person basically rejoices in the good qualities of the person they've ordained, and then mentions the new name that they have, which to some degree probably reflects some qualities which are starting to emerge. So this is like a really kind of a mudita practice writ large, where one's had one's own merits rejoiced in, and on this occasion about 12 other people. And I have to say, this raised the level of mudita and joyfulness to a really, really high level. And I was sort of reflecting on, well, why was this? And what occurred to me was that what was also going on, as well as mudita, is that because what was being enacted, what was going on was something in relation to the Dharma. So people's good qualities have been rejoiced, and then also the possibility of, or the potential, was also very much referenced in people's new names. They're given in a way a bit of a goal, sort of like you've got the potential for realizing this name, if you like, ever more deeply. So it struck me that as well as mudita being on the scene, something like confidence or trust in the Dharma, shraddha, which is the Pali name for this very, very positive emotion, seemed to be getting in on the act as well. So what I'm starting to get a bit clearer now is the importance of how mudita in relation to the Dharma can really raise the experience to sort of, we could say, like a new level of significance. And I think the take home from this is that it's really important to tell other people about any good fortune you have in relation to your Dharma life. Maybe it's some good experiences you've had, maybe it's new understandings, maybe you requested ordination or requested to become a mitra. All these are important things which they sort of have a connection to the Dharma, but they also have something of the flavour of mudita about them. So do tell your friends, do tell the people you know about your Dharma good fortune, if you like, and also just be open to what other people say about this, because this can really make quite a rich, emotionally rich experience if you combine the response to good fortune in terms of mudita, but also in relation to the Dharma. So there's a possibility of shraddha, of confidence and trust in the Dharma really being ignited in the experience.